Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Tuesday, December 1st. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Michigan State game is in 4 days, and the game against Michigan is in 11 days. Today is also Giving Tuesday, which is a big deal for all sorts of nonprofits that do great work in all sorts of fields. So if you are so inclined and have a few bucks to donate to a cause that matters to you, this is a great day to do it. And if you're listening to this, there's also a pretty good indication that Ohio State football is something else that matters to you. And Monday, Buckeye Scoop readers got to a flood of information from inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, all of which seem to be pointing towards the possibility that the Buckeyes might be on track to potentially play their game at Michigan State this weekend. How is that for a well-hedged sentence? Buckeye Scoop's Marc Givler joins me today. Marc, what can you tell people about what's happening inside the OSU program yesterday and today and what it might mean for this weekend?
Yeah, so they got obviously as the release that OSU put out on Monday stated, they got the guys who are not isolated right now working in small groups, which is, the first step between or the next step is now practicing. And there's hope that Tuesday that could come together in some fashion. Will it be a full contact practice or will all 85 be out there together? I wouldn't maybe go that far, but I think they're hoping to get the team together and have some type of organized practice on Tuesday if things continue to go well with the testing. If everyone is comfortable with where the rates are at, they'll continue to isolate the guys who did test positive a few days ago. Again, we don't know the exact number; they haven't released that, but we assume it's significant enough to obviously to not play on Saturday. So, optimism. I'm getting a sense of it was very bleak there. I think over the weekend, a lot of people were really down. A lot of people I talked to were really bummed about everything. Definitely an uptick in optimism here the last 24 to 48 hours. So that's a good sign. And we just see what happens here later today and Wednesday. If they can string a practice or two together, that's a great sign.
Well, when we talked to Ryan Day on Saturday, he had said Thursday was kind of a deadline to get back on the practice field in order to be able to play this weekend. If they got out on Thursday and were able to have a full contact practice on Thursday, you could kind of have that walkthrough on Friday, and it's not ideal, but they'll make it work basically. So for them to be comfortable enough to potentially be heading back out on the field today, even if if today's just a walkthrough, that's almost a normal week of practice at that point. And I mean, that's an incredible leap forward from where things stood, 24 hours ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone was just kind of crossing their fingers on what maybe the testing results would be. And obviously, again, they're not sharing these on an individual basis, but we know enough to know that the damage has been, not as significant here the last day or two as it could have been. When you start to hear, a bunch of people testing positive late last week, you wonder, because sometimes you can have this thing for a few days and not know you have it, not test positive until day 3, 4, 5. So I think everyone was kind of holding their breath and making sure that there wasn't some big number on Monday. And from everything we've heard, there wasn't, and things are trending back in the right direction on that front. And then from there, it's trying to get guys who are negative, who don't have symptoms, who are safe to go out there and kind of do whatever they can as much as they can right now.
And Ohio State's positive news was not the only news around the Big Ten on what was a unusually busy Monday. Michigan temporarily paused all of their team activities after some number of positive tests. They didn't release, I don't think, a specific number, but it was enough that they stopped their practices and kind of put everything on pause to sort of get a handle on things. And of course, there was immediately a wave of people saying this was clearly the first step towards the Wolverines trying to duck out of the game in Columbus next week. It sure seems like they might be trying to just stay ahead of things and keep it from getting any worse. Marc, is this a clear sign that Michigan is trying to duck out of the game in Columbus next week?
No, I don't think so. I know a lot of people are going to think that. Maybe I'm being a little naive here, but I tend to think there's enough respect for the rivalry here that if they can line up and play, they're going to line up and play. Two, you can kind of say what you want about Jim Harbaugh. I don't think that's in Jim Harbaugh's nature. I think it's almost the opposite with Harbaugh. I think he would be one of those stubborn guys that would roll out there with 35 scholarship players if they let him, just to, try to win the game. I just, like I said, you don't have to like Jim Harbaugh. You don't have to agree with him. You don't think he's a great coach. There's a lot of things you can say, and there's a lot of things you can criticize him for. This doesn't seem like this doesn't line up to me to be in his nature to pull something like that.
And, if you want to look at it, this is not a favorable matchup for them in Columbus coming up. But, with Ohio State having, we don't know specific names, but someone was going to miss that game in Illinois, and under the Big Ten's 21-day protocol, that means they're going to miss that Michigan game too. So there's some number of Ohio State players that are going to miss that. And, for Michigan to come to Columbus, normally that's 100 and something thousand people, a very, 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 very hostile crowd. And, the cardboard cutouts are not going to be very hostile. And maybe there's fans that, families there, and maybe there's not. There's elements of this that make this less immediately destined for doom than it might have otherwise seemed for Michigan this year.
Yeah, and look, if you're a Michigan fan right now, you probably feel like you've hit rock bottom at 2-4. This is ugly right now, and if there's one thing that could get you some momentum going, both on the field and in recruiting, it'd be beating Ohio State. And it's of my opinion at this point, what would they have to lose? By playing Ohio State in 2 weeks, if they lost 56-0 in 2 weeks, would that change much, in terms of from a PR standpoint or the perception of the gap between these two programs, right? Would that really, they've gotten blown out a couple times lately. I don't think that would do much more damage. I think the damage has already been done now. I think it's almost there's a nothing to lose factor to that, where it would help them to play the game. And if by some chance they're not even win the game, if by some chance they're, highly competitive in that game, that may actually boost them a little bit.
You might get the Rutgers, Greg Schiano, throw the kitchen sink at it game plan. That is, as you said earlier, the idea of ducking the game does not seem like that's in Jim Harbaugh's wheelhouse. I'm not sure the kitchen sink playbook is really in Jim Harbaugh's wheelhouse, but you never know. Another piece of news Monday was Minnesota had canceled its game against Northwestern for this weekend. So unless they get another game scheduled, the Wildcats will now clinch the West Division title in the most anticlimactic way possible. And it also came out Monday that Indiana quarterback Michael Penix is out for the year following a leg injury he suffered against Maryland. So here's my theory, and you can tell me if I'm crazy. The Big Ten cannot afford to have its championship game between Indiana without its starting quarterback and Northwestern. You can't do that. You cannot do that to your TV partners at Fox. So therefore, if Ohio State does have to miss another game, whether it's Michigan State or Michigan, it is in the Big Ten's best interest to change the minimum games requirement to qualify for the conference championship game so the Buckeyes can play. And perhaps more importantly, their fans can all watch them play on Fox. Mark, am I way off base there?
No, you can say it's bad optics to maybe change the rules for Ohio State, but I think it's bad optics to have an undefeated Ohio State sitting at home. Well, I guess not sitting at home, but playing God knows who in a couple weeks, not for the Big Ten championship, while Indiana goes out there and plays Northwestern. And, at some point, if you want to compete with the SEC does what's best for the SEC. The Big Ten needs to do what's best for the Big Ten. If you want to change the narrative a little bit nationally, I think you need to make sure your best teams who have earned the right. By the way, we're not telling anyone to put a 2-loss Ohio State in that lost to Indiana, and they should just be in because they're Ohio State. We know who the best team in the Big Ten East is, and we know who the only playoff contender left in the Big Ten is, and they should be on that stage. They just should be. Assuming they don't lose, a couple games here the next 2 weeks, or, lose a bad one somewhere along the line, like the Michigan State this weekend. But it would make a lot of sense. And I don't think the optics are any worse by doing that than by letting it play out the other way. So, but I don't know, maybe I'm being a homer.
Well, Mark, in addition to all of his homering and what have you, Mark writes a column called Buckeye Scoop, which members can find conveniently enough at buckeyescoop.com. That is pretty easy to remember, I would say. This week, he wrote about a number of prospects from the state of Texas who the Buckeyes are supposedly serious contenders to land after bringing in a couple 5-stars already recently. And he went through which ones he thinks are, legit interest and which ones are probably not so much. So you can find the entire column at buckeyescoop.com if you are a member. But Marc, you give people at least one name of someone from Texas in one of these classes coming up who the Buckeyes really do have a very legitimate chance to land.
Yeah, I think class of 22, Armani Winfield, top 100 wide receiver, Louisville, Texas. A guy very similar to Caleb Burton in terms of there was a lot of overlap with Burton and Quinn Ewers in terms of their top schools. And so most of us expected they would probably end up together. When Ewers committed to Texas, that was kind of a tough blow to Ohio State. And, they were still in it for Caleb Burton, but it definitely made things a little interesting there. And, there was some thought that Burton might follow him to Texas. Obviously, Ewers flips to Ohio State. Burton follows him to Ohio State. And so we have a similar situation now with Winfield, who many people thought would follow Ewers to Texas. And now Ohio State's got a lot of momentum. I think they're in the driver's seat right now. And that's one, a lot of the guys I talked about, those may be national recruitments. Those may be things that drag into the spring or summer. Winfield could be a sooner. That could be a sooner rather than later type of deal. That could be, we could be talking weeks, maybe not months. So that one's very interesting to watch. And like I've said before about this, we make fun of the package deal. It's definitely an overblown thing in recruiting. It doesn't happen nearly as often as people think. Kids make their own decisions. It's best for them, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, what's best for a great receiver is to be paired with a great quarterback. And what's best for a great quarterback is to be paired with great receivers. So they are maybe not truly package deals, but they are oftentimes linked together because it is in both of their best interests to play together, because that's how you get to the NFL. You put up big numbers in college is by playing with elite players and putting up the big stats. So the Ewers impact here is huge. And I think it's turned Winfield back toward Ohio State.
All right. And while we're talking about Texas, all right, just going to do it. Let's do it. Urban Meyer to Texas. Urban Meyer to Texas. The rumors are flying fast and furious right now. A website based in Austin on Monday wrote an article titled, direct quote, exclusive, Urban Meyer's wife said to be eyeing Austin real estate. Marc, an article about message board rumors about a coach's wife looking at houses in a new city. I mean, it's done, right? You already have the article pre-written, right? I mean, this is a done deal, right?
Do Urban and John Gruden have the same agent?
I was hoping he'd get Bride Gruden's old house.
Do we have the answer to that? I think Urban's going to be the new Gruden, and I know he just did come back to the Raiders here recently, but I think Urban's going to be the new Gruden. I think we're going to be linking him to the big job that's open every freaking year for the next God knows how long until he's 80 years old. Never say never. It's 2020, and Urban's a little erratic himself. You never quite know what he's going to do, but I would be very surprised if he returned to coaching in the 2021 season. If you tell me they found a medical solution to his cyst in his head, I will be more open to it. But from my understanding, that's only going to get worse, not going to get better. You can only drill so many holes in the guy's head and drain that thing so many times. I don't see it. And gosh, you're bold with the Urban to Texas. I'm going to maybe be a little more bold. I'm not so sure they're even going to fire Herman this year. So we'll see. We'll see. Now, there's a couple weeks left for the optics to change on that. But when you have mass layoffs, a huge shortfall, and a $16, $17 million buyout, I don't know. I think it's a tough sell to get rid of a guy who might go something along the lines of 7-8-3. I mean that could be a tough thing for administration to sell, even with the big money Texas has. But not buying the Urban stuff yet.
Yeah, I do wonder if the Tom Herman job status may be dependent on, do they have the replacement that they absolutely desperately want to have in hand already? I don't think they're firing him without knowing exactly who they're hiring to replace him. You're not doing that this year. If Urban did say yes, sure, I could see them finding that money somehow. The big question from Ohio State's perspective at that point is, if Urban Meyer does take another head coaching job, Texas, USC, wherever, would he be able to bring Marc Pantoni, who's of course the recruiting guru for Ohio State, who followed Urban from Florida, and Mickey Marotti, strength coach, assistant athletic director in charge of performance for football or something like that. I mean, these are kind of the guys behind the guy who are not names that every single Ohio State fan knows, but are crucial pieces of that Ohio State football machine. Would Urban be able to pull those guys away? I think that's something that the Ohio State fans who know who those people are, who Mickey and Marc are, that's something that probably keeps them up at night to some degree.
Yeah, I would just take a sedative and go to bed. I think you're fine. I don't think I don't think it would happen. Look, money talks. Could there be some just ridiculous contracts thrown around? I mean, I guess that's possible. You just never know with that stuff. But all things being close, I don't see it. My understanding is both guys really love being in Columbus. Marc Pantoni has a young family. I don't know that he wants to uproot his family at this point. And again, as much as they may admire and respect and like Urban Meyer, I think I don't know that they're going to take another job knowing they're going to be moving again in 5 or 6 years, probably. I mean, Urban's not Joe Paterno or Bobby Bowden. He's a program builder. He's maybe the best program builder that we've ever seen. But then he builds it and it's time to leave. He burns hot. So he burns out a little bit. He needs a break and to find the next opportunity. And I think they're not going to just skip around the country with them, every 5 or 6 years. I just don't see that happening. As I've said before but really with both guys, but especially with Marc Pantoni, I think those guys following him the first time said more about Will Muschamp almost than it did about their admiration for Urban Meyer. Yes, they love Urban, but working for Will Muschamp, from everything I've been told from several people over the years, is not exactly a walk in the park, and he is not a guy whose temperament is very even keel at all. He's kind of a slave driver on that front, and it's just even more probably worse than Urban, just because I think Urban with that there's a respect there. There's you're going to win. You're going to get Urban Meyer on your resume, and Muschamp doesn't come with any of those perks, and he comes with all the rage of 1,000 suns. So I don't know. I think everyone's safe on that front. Maybe a blank check could make a difference. That could probably make a difference for any of us. But other than that, I don't see any reason to worry.
And this week has been one of those weeks when people ask, why should I become a member of Buckeye Scoop? This week has been one of those weeks that has provided the answer. There has been a lot of crazy rumors and conjecture floating around, and this is the week to have a Nevada Buck who you can just say, so what's going on? And he can tell you what's going on, even when other people don't know what's going on. Marc, can you just, I guess we've picked up a lot of subscribers, and it's so interesting how many of them come on the board and go, oh, wow, this really is, like, you guys weren't kidding. This really is incredible. So go ahead and give the 30-second sales pitch on why people who may not be members of BuckeyeScoop.com yet should consider becoming a member, say, right about now.
Look, I think whatever your flavor is, we have different personalities, different guys on the, some people like Bill Green. He's blunt. He's to the point. He's got, funny. Some people like Tony's dry humor. Some people like Kirk's energy. There's something for everybody. We cover recruiting. We cover the team. We have different columns each day, planned out, spaced out appropriately, just to give you something each day. So it's not like we're overloading you one day and then the next day it's empty. We have a consistency, I think, in our content day in and day out. I think everyone will appreciate that, and we all enjoy what we do. I think that shows, and I think we all have a great staff chemistry. I think the cool thing about this site, when we started it, was a lot of us were friends. Even working at different places, we were friends. We were close. We kind of knew how each person operated and what they were good at, and what the strengths were there, and kind of have been able to marry that together to make it all work for everybody. So I just think if you want consistent day in and day out coverage, whether it's recruiting or team, I think we've got a great staff, and I know all our guys work really hard at it.
Yeah, it has been it has been a lot of fun. I have covered this team for, 3 years in a row now, but before that, a number of years before that. And I feel like since joining the staff and having access to the folks I'm working with now, I have learned a lot about the program. So having covered the team for 3 years and having so much that I've learned, it's like, I think there's probably stuff that other people would probably be able to glean from this site as well. So if you are looking to become a smarter and more informed Buckeye fan, a BuckeyeScoop.com membership would be a great thing to ask for Christmas. Go ahead and tell someone to get it for you right now, and you can just be start enjoying the content right now before the Michigan State Michigan Big Ten championship game, college football playoff. Just start enjoying it now, and you can act surprised on Christmas morning. Oh wow, a Buckeye Scoop membership! That's awesome. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it already. So make sure you do that. Also, make sure you check out all of our great podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify. Marc's got a couple of great ones, including with Bill Green, Gives in the Bank on recruiting, the Vegas Knows podcast on gambling, point spreads. Kirk Barton does Scoop World Order, where he just has an absolute murderer's row of great guests. Tony Gerderman and I have Buckeye Weekly. We got the Buckeye Sloopcast. We got Silver Bullets. We got Alex Gleitman has Around the Oval, where he has some great guests on there as well. It is a fantastic lineup of shows. I'm sure I'm missing like 4 of them, but they are all great. Just search Buckeye Scoop on whatever your podcast platform of choice is to find all of those. You can subscribe right there. Also, leave us a 5-star rating and review while you're there. That helps other folks find these shows as well. That'll do it for today. Marc, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us and listening, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.